Employees of escape room or similar puzzle themed adventures. What's the worst case of you idiot that you've seen? Not an employee. But we went to one with a jail theme. Me. My wife. My sister. And her husband. I was chained to my sister and my wife was chained to brother-in-law. They turned off the lights and played the spooky intro. We stood in the dark and said, well, I guess the first thing is to find the lights. We tried to find the lights for 30 of the 45 minutes. Until my sister said bugger this and pressed the help button. The girl come in. Turned on the lights and said I'm so sorry. And we say what for? She was supposed to turn the lights back on after the spooky intro. And we stood in the dark chained to each other for half an hour like idiots. I used to work at an escape room in San Fran when they first opened. In the third week I was working there was one guy who started pulling up the floorboards thinking there was a clue under them and one of his friends couldn't take being in the room anymore and jumped out the window. We were on the first floor. They always tell us that there is nothing that requires excessive force when we start. At least the ones I've been to. Maybe he thought they were lying because they were in on it thinking. I did one with my kids. When we couldn't finish he came in to show us how we were close to escaping. We just needed to use the black light to see the UV clue. What black light? He picks up a little flashlight. It doesn't work. His face just dropped. I swear we tested it this morning. The kids were happy. He gave us a certificate that we had won. But damn, that was so disappointing. Felt like I was given a participation trophy. Not an employee. Was the idiot. My friends and I, roughly 7 guys around age 18, decided to do an escape room which was themed based on time travel. We got to a point where we could progress to the next room and there were speakers blasting out the command. Push the wall. Push the wall. All 7 of us disregarded the instruction. Spent the next 10 minutes trying to figure out how to escape the room and even push the button to ask for help. When the employee came to help she was like, are you even listening? What is the speaker saying? Group found a key that was found in a hole on the side of a locked trunk. Tried using the key on the locked trunk. Which is understandable. However, there was also a lock on the door that needed to be open in order to advance. The group acknowledged the lock on the door several times. Yet continued to try opening the trunk despite the key not fitting in any direction. Another common thing is when we tell people that no excessive force is needed to open anything. Leave furniture alone. etc. And they still try prying cabinets apart and removing shelves and drawers from places. I'm not an employee. But had a case of you idiot. Against the employee. And ourselves. So we're working our way through a Medera's apartment. Kinda average speed. There was a great part where we had to watch a Saw style video, without the gore obviously, and figure out a code from that. It ended up being the timestamps of when the victim blinked. Damn. We felt like geniuses on that one. Anyway. We get into the next room and are presented with another puzzle. We have a look for clues and on the chest in the corner is this sheet of paper with hints to the puzzle. I say hints. Because it was really clear with how to solve it. Oh well. We thought. Maybe they had some complaints with how hard this puzzle was and had to simplify it. Or maybe they needed some quick puzzles after that video one which could easily eat up a lot of time if you didn't figure out the blinking. No. After we escaped. We were commended on the quickest time they've ever had. We mentioned the last puzzle and how easy it was. And the employee's face dropped. Turns out. When he was setting up. He left his instruction sheet in that puzzle room. And we just thought it was part of the game. Idiots all round. Oh man, I'm sure the employee got a kick out of my group. We had one girl who just couldn't comprehend a single thing but insisted on being the leader and holding the walkie-talkie. We had to ask for help. Every time one of us would give a solution to a clue. She'd ponder it for a good 5-10 minutes and refuse to try it until she radioed the employee to ask if it was correct. Eventually we just started solving clues without telling her. At the end she was talking to the employee about a clue we'd figured out 10 minutes ago. And the employee just sighed and went, honey, your team just solved the puzzle, you go on home now. Not an employee, but there was a girl in one of the breakout groups on my field trip to Breakout Birmingham who was just an idiot. I stayed behind after my group and went to watch the cameras of the following groups with my teacher. Girl was upset she didn't have her phone and couldn't Google the answers to the escape. So she decided to sit down and not help at all while whining this is too hard. Later pushed the emergency button to open the door. Came out. And said we really need help with this. You need to help us. She was immediately sent back to the room and pouted the entire time while her team did all the work. Her team ended up getting the best time of the day and she went around parading the fact she was in the team that won the breakout thing. Nobody likes her. I went to an escape room recently. And towards the end, we found a set of handcuffs with a key attached to the middle of the cuffs. This was a moment when we were really running out of time and needed to solve the last few clues. And we knew which lock this key was likely to unlock. One of my friends and I turned around quickly to grab something. And when we turned back, two of our other friends had handcuffed themselves with the cuffs. Each with one hand inside. I don't even know what they thought they were achieving. So to use the key attached to the cuffs, the two of them had to try to bend down at an incredibly awkward angles and maneuver themselves into positions that would let the key fit in a certain lock. They tried for about 10 seconds before one of the organizers slid the key that would unlock the cuffs into the room from under the door. When we asked them what they thought when they saw those two do that on the cameras, they were like, yeah, that was pretty dumb. We laughed as soon as we saw it. My group were the idiots. I've done several escape rooms previously without issue. But the last one I did was at a work outing, so all the rooms were taken up, resulting in our group doing the hardest one there. We wasted our 3 hints in the first section. Didn't solve a single clue on our own at all. In the second section there was a bunch of jungle themed props laying about, vines, fruit, etc. and a piece of paper that said something along the lines of when man and nature become one. So after failing at this section for ages, we built a figure of man out of nature props on the ground and put the paper clue next to it. The guy came to check in on us and burst out laughing when he saw what we did. I was the idiot. Me and my ex were in a Monopoly themed room. And one of the puzzles had a piece of paper that had a cube. The numbers 1 to 6. And 21 dots on it. The lock was 4 letters. With each having a couple of letter options. We spent like 20 minutes trying random things. But nothing worked. The employee finally took pity on us and gave us a hint. The answer was dice. Not an employee, but I went to one in Maine. My brother and his wife began arguing to a point where the employees were asking them to calm down and focus. Nothing physical. Just ruined it. My girlfriend was mortified and their adult children were pissed. The guy running the thing was just giving away easy clues to end our misery. Of course we went for drinks after and the whole passive aggressiveness continued between them, making the whole evening a disaster. I can answer this from the other way. So I'm in Budapest, which has loads of escape rooms. With my girlfriend. We go to this place and the entrance is a heavy wooden door. All iron and wood. Massive inlaid handle. You know. Place says it's open pretty much all day and night, and we turn up at about 6. I knock and pull on the handle. Nothing. Doesn't budge. My girlfriend grabs the handle and pulls. Nothing. I roll up my sleeves. Place a foot on the wall and grab the handle and pull. Nothing. The door rattles a bit but nothing. We then hear a voice from the other side of the door go It's a push door. Duck in escape room, and the real puzzle was getting in the place. Talk about falling at the first hurdle. After we repeatedly tell customers the way you walked into the room is the way you walk out, a lady climbed on a table and began pulling herself into the ceiling through the ceiling tiles. I went to one called room 321. The first thing we needed was a 3-digit code for a chest that was in front of a wall with numbers written on it. This fool I was in there with tried at least 20 combos before letting me take a shot at it. 3 guesses what it was. I'm late to this. But here you go. I did an escape room with my girlfriend and her brother and mom. It was this kind of satanic monk type story thing. We were monks and there were these creepy demonic like puzzles to figure out. In one room, there's a little holy water fountain. We fill a little vial with the holy water and the fountain goes off. The puzzle is that we have to figure out to drop the holy water in a little crate to trigger its unlocking. Anyway, her brother goes around tossing holy water on everything in the room, including this demonic monster head on a table. All during this, the escape room employee talks to us occasionally as the voice of Vade over a loudspeaker in a deep evil sounding voice. He jumps in to add color to the story and to give hints when necessary. My girlfriend's brother at one point starts drinking the holy water. Vade says don't waste the holy water. Not an employee, but I play and watch games a lot. Escape rooms are wild in our city. There are more than 150 for a million population. So once my friend, let's call him Billy, took a bunch of friends to a serial killer themed escape room. We divided in 2 teams. First team went in. It was cool. We beat it in less than an hour. Next team is the birthday boy Billy, his friend who I'm gonna call Rob, and Rob's girlfriend who's Italian and doesn't speak our language but is excited to play. Now here's the thing. Billy is almost deaf but doesn't use sign language. He can speak and he reads lips, but doesn't hear. It's his 4th escape room experience and usually he does good, though he's bad at following rules. Robbie and his GF are doing it for the first time. Team 1 went to sit with the employee and watch Team 2 play. There was a room decorated as morgue with brains and liver in the jars. The key was in the jar. There are gloves and they are not hidden. They're laying just there, but somehow the team completely missed them and we watched them on the screen arguing for about 5 minutes who has to touch the liver with bare hands. When Bill finally reached for the key in the liver, Robbie discovered magnetic powder. They were supposed to place it on a chessboard and it would form a clue to open the door. Robbie decided that magnetic powder belonged in the jar with liver and poured it in, thus completely ruining it. Meanwhile, Bill is upset that the lights are dim. They missed the switch, but he found some wires. Players are asked not supposed to touch wires, so the employee calls them on walkie-talkie to stop them. We see then a silent movie scene. Robbie pointing on walkie-talkie multiple times and Billy doing this wide gesture of denial as in oh come on you wuss. We're not stuck. We're not asking for hints. Don't even start with this thing. No hints. I'm onto something important here. Before Robbie convinced him it's about wires, Bill plugged out something important. Lights went out and the locked door opened. Somehow Robbie's girlfriend was the most sane person there and solved some puzzles really quick. I think my group may have been these people. When my husband and I with our friends, also a couple, did an escape room together, they gave us a little torch, flashlight. We're Aussie. The room was pitch black, so we start looking around with our little lights. I find a key that has a tag on it almost immediately. The tag is just the logo for the company. It doesn't fit any of the locks in the room, so we set it aside for possible use later. I don't know how others work, but we were allowed to ask for one hint and there was a little speaker. About 20 minutes in, a voice comes over the speaker and asks if we have found the key with the tag yet. We say yes and she goes it's to unlock the light switch. We spent 20 of our 60 minutes in the dark with genie torches and felt like the biggest idiots. We solved it with about 4 seconds left though. I was in one where we solved the final puzzle almost instantly. We just didn't know that someone else had cheated for us. There was this set of PVC pipes set up with letters on them and certain letters were circled and it spelled a word that told us where the final key was. Both our group and the guy running it were confused because we shouldn't have been able to complete the room in 3 minutes without cheating. He asked us how we solved the puzzle when we didn't have all the pieces. Turns out that the letters weren't supposed to be circled in permanent marker. We were supposed to find a sheet of paper with cryptic instructions on how to decode it. Some jackass that was in the room before us wrote the answer to the puzzle on the puzzle. How about idiot employee? We had found the code with plenty of time left to work on the second portion. This was on the hardest room this location had. Well, we used to knocking code on the desk and it didn't work. We double checked it and tried again. It didn't work. We waved down the employee for help saying it wasn't working and we knew we had it right. They typed out half of the code and said to figure out the rest. Well, we already had it. We told her the code exactly and she said to try knocking harder. Long story short, this goes on for half an hour of us asking her to just do it for us because it's not working. She spends like 5-10 minutes trying to make it work and we lose all the time and just don't finish. I was very annoyed because we lost all that time when we told her we did the puzzle right, we just couldn't get the equipment to work. Not an employee but funny story. Our colleague booked the escape room as a team building activity after her friend had recommended it to her. Colleague said the room we would try would be different than the one her friend went to. As we were in the middle of trying to figure out a key riddle, she yelled in frustration, but Emma said we need to follow the XY pattern. The embarrassment in her face clearly showed that her friend had visited the same room and given her all the answers, but she still didn't manage to figure it out. Actually, none of us did. D. In one of the games, there is a part where you open the door from the other side to get to the other team. After their time was up, I went in to help them finish the rest of the puzzle. We were supposed to open it. This one is kinda the other way around. I played a room which had an age-old radio cabinet as a prop. Because I love tinkering, I pressed the switches and knobs and found that the radio was plugged in and still fully functional. They had to ask me via the clue monitor to turn the radio off, because the music made it impossible for them to understand anything we were talking about. I don't work at one, but I went to one and my friend triggered the opening of a door. And my sister looked through it, thought it was an emergency exit, and closed it. I have a friend whose family owns one. This is a different kind of stupid. Guy proposes to his girlfriend as soon as the door closes. She says no. They spend a very awkward 60 minutes locked in a room trying to escape each other. Okay. In one of our rooms people find a battery locked up, but they don't have anything for the battery to power. The torch comes later. The efforts that people put into repurposing that battery is absolutely magical. My particular favorite is the fierceness with which people try to squeeze the non-fitting battery into a purely decorative clock. I mean, I don't know what they expect to happen, that they will all of a sudden be able to tell the time? I also played this room when I first started working there. I tried the exact same thing for a solid 9 minutes. A lot of people make mistakes in terms of ignoring the flow, logic or story of the escape rooms, but I think it is easy to understand how they don't see the step-by-step process, especially in their more panicked moments. Me and my buddies finished a room, but failed to realize that the door was unlocked. We also failed to notice the employee walk into our room. We finally put down the puzzle when the guy walked in and laughed his ass off at these idiots who didn't realize they finished. We asked this question before doing a room as customers once. The room included some live extension cords and a toilet among other things. Employee said he had to burst in once to stop Simone from electrocuting themselves. Dude was pouring water from the toilet all over the cords. Employee said it's as if people don't think the laws of life, physics and science and whatnot applied in the room. Like, hey, they must be using some fake safe electricity in the escape room. Edit, damn it. Simone. I was the idiot. Went to one in California with some friends, and we were pretty damn close to the end. Someone mentioned she found a code for some kind of lock, and we should try it with this obvious lock that it would work on. Nobody ducking does it, and we squander our last 5 minutes trying to solve the last few puzzles that came after that lock that would have given us a piece to solve the ones we were so caught up on. Also, I was really hung up on some weight loss books I found because one of the hints we got mentioned something about weight. Think we had to weigh something on a hidden scale somewhere. Didn't help that there was a black flashlight we were using at one point, and those books lit the duck up. No other books glowed. My friends and I have a tradition of going to escape rooms, and the last one we went to was an upside down room. Floor was on the ceiling, so lamps and such were above us. One of the clues mentioned the floor. And since the employee had told us we'd need to count things, note colors, etc., we started counting rugs and lamps on the floor above us. We tried putting the numbers into locked boxes to no avail. This went on for a good 5 minutes before the employee told us over walkie-talkie, "Guys, you're overthinking this. The answer is just floor." There was another box we forgot about, which used letters instead of numbers. And of course the code was floor. Took us a bit to figure it out, but we still made it out of the room in time. My friends and I were doing our first escape room. It was a kidnapping theme, heavily influenced by Saw. We were in a room that was decked out to be like an old abandoned caller. The only light was a little desk lamp in a corner. We would angle the light different directions to see. It was difficult, but it worked. At one point, we found a light switch to the room lights, but it wasn't decorated. Just a normal white faceplate. We debated for about 5 minutes whether or not we were supposed to turn it on or if it was there for safety code reasons. We decided it would break the immersion if we turned it on and continued using the lamp. Afterwards the worker said we were allowed to turn it on, but he was super impressed at how well we worked just using the lamp. He said no one else had ever done that. Escape room owner here. I had a parent put their baby on the floor just the other day in order to solve a puzzle. At some point the room turns into a dark room filled with black lights and bright lights and whatnot. I put a clue up on the screen saying, "Please watch out for the baby on the floor." The mom shouted, "What baby?" as she proceeded to kick the baby in the face, which she apparently forgot about. I don't work at one, but when I went to do one I asked the same question to the lady at the desk. She told me that one weekend, the company was running a family weekend where you got a great deal if you brought your kids, or something like that. Most of everybody was fine, but there was one group where the 2 kids were just doing nothing but ducking around with each other. Well, what winds up happening is one of the kids pushes the other one into a cabinet and then breaks the handle off. So the kid is trapped in a cabinet in an escape room. Employees had to burst in and figure out how to get the kid out, which took 30 minutes.